Hey, this is Simply Psych. Ever feel like there's too many damn buttons to press for your character? Well, today I've got some help for you if you play a Demonology Warlock, and maybe some ideas for other classes as well. Using a combination of macros, I have made Demonology Warlock DPS as easy as 1, 2, 3. While using these macros, you'll probably not top the DPS charts unless you're completely outgeared for the encounter. It will be a fairly easy way to play the game, and if you're like me and a little bit lazy, this is more ideal than necessarily doing the absolute best. This philosophy also applies to the way that I do my talents in my build. I don't pick a lot of extra active abilities. I try to avoid trinkets that have a lot of extra active abilities as well. So most of my talents are geared towards passives that make life easier for me. So let's take a look at those now. First up, we have Shadowy Inspiration. Shadowy Inspiration makes your demonic empowerment also cause your next Shadow Bolt or Demon Bolt to be instant. We use demonic empowerment a lot in this rotation, so that helps. Next up, we have Improved Dreadstalkers, which adds 2 Wild Imps to your Dreadstalker summon. Considering talent we take later, that's going to be very important. Demon Skin gives you a little bit of health boost, keeps you alive. Power Trip, this is the extra boost for demonic empowerment. It gives you a chance to get an extra soul shard, good for keeping your casting going. The level 75 talent doesn't matter, I don't use it. Next we have Grimoire Service, which lets you summon a second demon. I use the Felguard. And finally we have Demonbolt, which does extra damage and based on how many summons you have out at once. This all gels very nicely together and makes it so that you are rewarded for having more demons out at once and that you're able to keep your demons out. So with that all in mind, what does our rotation look like? Well, based off Icy Veins' guide here, and I'll link that in the description, you should maintain Doom at all times. Have your Dreadstalkers and Doomguard out at all times off cooldown. Use your Hand of Gul'dan anytime you have full 4 soul shards. Use your Grimoire Felguard anytime it is up. If you have Soul Harvest, which we don't, use that on cooldown. Use Command Demon plus Spellstorm on cooldown. Life Tap to keep mana up, and otherwise fill the void with some Demon Bolts. And that's kind of where we base it off of. In addition to all of this, you need to keep your demonic empowerment up anytime you cast a new demon. So how do we pare down these 9 abilities to just 3 buttons? Well, we use some macros. Now as a quick disclaimer, I use manual macros. You can use Gnome Sequencer Enhanced as an alternative, and actually get this down to 1 button. I'll leave a link in the description for that add-on, but I prefer the manual macros just as something that I like to create on my own, as well as it gives me just a little bit more control. That, and I haven't figured out how to use Gnome Sequencer Enhanced very well on my own, making my own macros yet. Maybe I'll get to figuring that out a little better and post a video later showing how to get it to just the 1. So the general philosophy on how my 3 macros work is that we have a starting macro, which goes to a cooldown, a secondary macro, which goes to a cooldown, and my third macro, which just rotates through damage. The idea here is that the macro stops anytime it hits a long cooldown, and it shows the icon and the cooldown for that long cooldown. In this example, Summon Doomguard is the first button. Grimoire Felguard is the second button. Third button is just your actual rotation, and is what I would suggest for using it against trash. The 3 macros I post below will be the ones I'm using, so if you want to use them, feel free to modify them, whatever you want. There is a slight catch to this, in that sometimes you might not have soul shards. So what I've done is I've bound Demon Bolt to my thumb mouse button, just in case I don't have any soul shards. The macro should generate enough all the time, but occasionally it glitches out and there isn't. For our first macro, it's going to ensure that we have our Felguard up. If it isn't, it's going to cast it. Otherwise, it's going to cast Doom, and then Demon Bolt, then it'll call out Dreadstalkers, then we're going to cast Demonic Empowerment, Demon Bolt again, and it's going to summon a Doomguard, and cast Demonic Empowerment again. Then it's going to cycle to summon Doomguard just to show the cooldown, but otherwise it's not going to be able to actually cast it since it'll be off cooldown obviously. The second macro casts Grimoire Felguard and Demonic Empowerment, and then cycles back to Grimoire Felguard to show its cooldown as well. It's a very short, simple macro, but it lets you see the cooldown that you need before moving on to the third. The third macro checks if the target that you're fighting is affected by Hand of Gul'dan. If it isn't, it's going to cast Doom, 3 Demon Bolts to get your 4 shards, and then Hand of Gul'dan. Then it's going to cast Demonic Empowerment and Life Tap. Then it's going to go to demonbolt and just stay there until Hand of Gul'dan is needed again, and it'll reapply it. And that will go on for as long as you're hitting that button. So the way that I play this entire rotation is during a boss fight, I'll hit 1 until I see the cooldown. I'll hit 2 until I see the cooldown. And then I'll just keep hitting 3 until I see either 1 or 2 come off cooldown. For trash mobs, I suggest just using 3. Just spam the hell out of it. It's going to keep hitting Hand of Gul'dan, which gives you some AoE, and otherwise you're whittling things down with demonbolt, and trash mobs don't stay up that long. Some of the footage you're seeing here is from my Looking for Raid run on Hellfire Citadel. You'll notice that my numbers are about middle of the pack, but that has a lot to do with my gear. I don't have any set pieces, and I'm sitting around 660 item level. And my offhand is even at level 60 heirloom, so I have a long ways to go on item level. All that considered, I'm pretty happy with what this does for my DPS. I would not recommend this for mythic level raiders who are already going to know how to play the game better than I do and can master the rotation no matter how many buttons they have to hit, and it doesn't apply for every situation. But for general use, it's fairly effective. Now this kind of thing isn't possible for every class, and for some classes it's completely unnecessary. Let's take, for example, my marksmanship hunter. Well, there's only about 5 buttons you hit total on our marksmanship hunter anyway, and not a lot of cooldowns, so designing something like this would be kind of pointless. And for specs that require more of a mastery of situational awareness than necessarily just where you're standing, such as a tank or a healer, there are better alternatives. For a tank, I'm not too familiar with, but anybody want to leave any comments below with some good ideas on how to minimize the use there, let me know. For a healer, I use Voodoo, and I use mouse clicks for that. It's damn effective. That being said, my next video like this is probably going to be one for the Feral Druid, so if you're interested in that, let me know. If there's any classes that you'd like to see done, I might be able to work something out and play with the macros and see what we can come up with. Otherwise, please do the needful, like, comment, and subscribe, and see you in the next video.